I've built 7 startups that went 0 to $1 million in their first 12 months. I've built 3 companies that have gone over 10 million in valuation. Today, we've got a team of over 100 people on our team. We do $12 million a year in revenue.
I'm sort of thinking, is he even human?
If you were now stripped of all of your money, what steps would you take to become a millionaire again?
The first 4 things you need when you're going to start a business is you need...
What's the next step?
Now, this is really important. Don't build the idea unless you've got leads.
How actionably would you say for someone to actually go about doing that?
It's actually one of the ways we scaled all the different companies. I've always been a massive fan of... That is essentially the first place where business becomes great. So then I'm going to move across to sales. In order for someone to buy from you, they have to logically want to buy the thing, emotionally want to buy the thing, and...
Let's role play now. So I guess I'm a bit afraid of committing to paying a price every single week.
Can I have your permission to push back on that idea with something that is a bit cheeky and a bit playful?
Yeah, I'm in a cheeky mood, so go on.
There will be people in the comments that don't have any money.
So I would encourage them to go something like...
What are those next few big industries, those big opportunities?
I've always been a massive fan of...
But then how do you take that from the 6 figures to the 7-figure mark?
I like it. So...
I've got to say, you're looking sharp, Daniel. I love your drip.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate that.
I was hoping that you was going to say I was looking jacked, but...
I felt a bit awkward. You're looking jacked. Is it Grant Cardone shit
Did you see that?
comments?
Yeah, that really got to him.
He really got in there.
You have been
Really.
hitting the gym, haven't you? Quite a lot.
For the last 3 weeks since you did that episode, you've massively improved.
Yeah, it's been 3 weeks of consistency, new year, new me, new goals, new vision, the lot.
You should have seen him in the hotel last night. I went to his room. He's there in the mirror. Tom, do you reckon I'm looking a bit... Do you reckon I'm like, yeah, mate, yeah.
Obviously, I'm
yeah.
taking the piss.
No, just own it, man.
He could barely fit through the door. He had to kind of go on his side and then like shimmy through.
I was
just
putting my
because of his
jacket on. I
shoulders.
was like, as soon as I put this jumper on, I was like, I'm going to be looking jacked.
You guys ready to head over there?
Speaking about trips away, I've actually got a bone to pick with you. You've stolen one of our ski buddies for the next ski trip.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we were meant to have Jack Wicks coming with us, and now he's going with you instead.
Oh, I run this thing called Ski Person of Influence where I take like 40,
a good name,
40
yeah.
50 people away to the snow. I don't even know who's on it this year, but
What kind of thing do you do with them apart from the skiing?
it's
obviously?
super simple. We ski all day. Before dinner, we do a 1-hour panel. So we bring interesting people. A lot of people on the trip have sold their company for like 20 million plus. They've been through a few journeys and then they end up doing a panel. So we'll have a theme to the panel and then we just have dinner. And I trust that everyone just gets along, has the chats that they need to have on the ski lift. There's no big agenda. We just ski and eat and have a panel each day.
You hear that, Jack? So you've ditched us for someone who doesn't even know that you're going. So I hope you're happy with your decision.
He's like, yeah, who's that?
I'll know. By the end of the trip, I'll know.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get into
Yeah.
this podcast because this is the second time you've been on, friend of the show now.
Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for coming. And we're in this very Dragon's Den-esque studio right now.
I'm out.
Well, let me ask you a question. If you could sell yourself to the viewers, as if the viewers were dragons, if you like, how would you pitch yourself?
So I've been an entrepreneur for half my life, 21 years. I'm 42 now. I've built 7 startups that went 0 to $1 million in their first 12 months. I've built 3 companies that have gone over 10 million in valuation. I've written 6 books on entrepreneurship in a series, and 4 of those have become international best-selling books. I've also done that while also getting married, having 3 kids, having a pretty stable and fun family life. I've traveled a lot, and I do it in a way that's kind of fun and enjoyable. And today we've got a team of over 100 people on our team. We do close to $12 million a year in revenue. It's all kind of cool and relaxed and enjoyable. So if people are interested in those journeys, then I'm your guy.
What do you think sets you apart from all those young gurus that are popping up now, giving advice to the next generation?
Well, there are some people who... I love the culture of people sharing their journey. I love the culture of people doing that. There are some people who have had fast money, right? And fast money, you've got to be very skeptical of someone who's made money fast. I was saying to you before, I know someone who was buying drugs on Silk Road back years ago and just had 90 Bitcoins that they were using back when Bitcoins were like $5 each. And they were intending to use that to buy drugs online. And now that person's a millionaire. and this is not someone who should be a millionaire. This is someone who looks like a millionaire. They show up on social with the fast cars and they're always on holiday and all this sort of stuff. This is not someone to learn anything from. The whole strategy is basically be lucky. Ideally you want someone who's been punched in the face over and over and over again and who figures out how to duck and weave and dodge and get back up.
Do you feel like you've been punched in the face over and over again? Because from what I can see of you, you are very, as you said, relaxed. It's all very easy. But then you mention all those things that you do and that you have done. And I'm sort of thinking, is he even human? Because what normal human could do all that, achieve all that, but still have this very calm, relaxed attitude?
Have been punched a fair bit. Business isn't easy. It's very difficult. You're dealing with a lot of people. You're dealing with people's expectations. You're dealing with finance. You're dealing with hyperlogical scenarios. Plus, also you're trying to create emotions in others and create a brand and a culture that people want to be part of. So it requires a rounded skill set, and not everyone's suited for that.
Is there anything or any specific qualities or things that you think a lot of people in business struggle with or don't have?
I think every business owner has something that they're struggling with. I think the ability to just embrace the struggle and say, this is just part of the journey. I'm not digging ditches. I'm not stuck out in the cold digging up a road. I say stuff to myself like, there are people my age who run countries or who are in charge of militaries. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I've got it easy. Keep going. My shoulders are broad. Give me more. So I reframe it pretty quickly.
Do you think we'll see more black swan events like crypto happen in the future? And is there a way to position yourself for that luck?
I think there's definitely going to be a lot of those sorts of things, especially with like AI startups and maybe not crypto, but there'll be as long as I've been around, there's always been something that's pumping. When I first started my career, the actual stock market, it was .com. Anything that had a .com attached to it was going to be, the next thing, and people were selling companies that had no revenue for 100 million. So all of this stuff was going on in those early days. I've always seen something pumping in that way. No, I don't think that there's a really good way to chase that stuff. I don't think it's a happy life chasing that stuff. It's not a good idea to compare yourself to someone who got onto one of those. They stepped on a money landmine and blew up, and basically, congratulations, you're an idiot who got lucky. But you don't necessarily want to follow those people because it's very hard to replicate it and do it again. Show me someone who can do that over and over and over again. I think there are good trends to follow. There are solid trends to follow. But also, here's the other thing. Getting rich slow is actually it actually has a lot more benefits than people realize. You get used to the money. Having money hit you fast is actually not necessarily an enjoyable experience. What happens when money hits the bank account fast, and I have built wealth slowly, I'm 42 and I've done well, but so faster than most, but also it hasn't been like 0 to 10 million, boom. What happens when money hits people's accounts really fast is that they get all sorts of people approaching them for money. So family members come out of the woodwork. They end up damaging their relationships because of the way that they handle that. They buy stuff that is poorly chosen. The emotions around money come up. All sorts of stuff goes on. And in many cases, people are not well equipped to deal with a massive influx of money if it happens that fast.
Every time I speak with Daniel, it's clear that he believes you need to adapt to technology or get left behind. On this note, some of the biggest technological advances are actually happening in the financial space. Fintech is honestly super exciting, especially for everyday investors. That's why I'm excited to share with you how our sponsors at Masterworks are changing the game. They've managed to use fintech technology to enable everyday investors to fractionally invest in a previously exclusive asset class. Fine art. What? You think billionaires are buying $1 million paintings just as conversation starters? These are assets that have been appreciating in value for decades. This is all because they have near zero correlation to traditional equities, meaning when the stock or real estate market is looking unstable because of something you can't control, your art investment is less likely to be affected. Masterworks has over 300 offerings from legends like Picasso, Banksy, and more. But you don't need graduate level art history knowledge to take advantage. While past results are no guarantee of future returns, each of their sales has delivered a profit so far, which is why over 900,000 users have signed up as of the start of this year. Shares have sometimes even sold out within minutes. But our subscribers can skip the waitlist and get started today by clicking the link in the description. Anyway, back to the show.
How has your mindset changed from having little or presumably no money at the start to now having more than anyone could really dream of? Is there a shift in how you think about money?
Yeah. I was always pretty optimistic at the early days that I was going to have money. I remember being totally broke and going and walking through affluent neighborhoods and just looking at those big houses and saying, I'm going to have a house like that one day. And you know, looking at all of those trappings and reading the books and all that. I was always very positive and optimistic in the early days. I was sleeping on a mattress on a floor. There were 5 of us living in a 3-bedroom place, and I was in the garage. You know, I was Pizza Hut delivery driver by night and McDonald's and working in a bar and knocking on doors, setting appointments. So I was eating shit, but I was also very, very positive and optimistic that it was going to go somewhere. So I was a pretty positive person. Money just takes away a lot of problems. You just solve a lot of problems if you got money, you know. So you can hire people to do anything. You don't have to clean your house because you have cleaners, and you don't have to pick up kids from school if you don't want to because you can just get a nanny to do it. And if one of the kids is struggling with a topic, you can bring in a tutor. If you make a mistake, you have a threshold of being able to make several mistakes in a row and it doesn't impact you materially. If you're broke and you make basic mistakes, even if the mistakes are not your fault, you know, you're back in reptile mode. So I remember going full reptile over over a parking ticket. So I was like, I don't know, maybe I was 18, 19 years old. I'd gone out to a business seminar to see a business talk, and like I was totally on a high, and then there was a parking ticket, and I was like devastated because it was $40 and I just did not have $40, and it was like this was going to destroy my entire finances. I was going to literally have to eat Special K and pasta for weeks to be able to afford the $40. I just didn't have any buffer for a mistake to happen. Whereas, you know, now bad stuff can happen and I can just absorb it. And
also, Special K is actually quite expensive these days. So these days it would
It's
just
not
be
a
the
luxury
pasta.
option, isn't
not
it?
from
Yeah.
Costco.
Oh, really?
Go to Costco. You get the big boxes of Special K.
You just mentioned that money solves a lot of problems, which I agree it does. But I feel like that's why the majority of people want to make money fast, to solve them problems quickly. And I would say that that's also the same as gambling. You know, why people gamble a lot of money, because they want that instant hit. So what would you say to someone who is at home that maybe does gamble, or they are always looking for that next big get rich quick scheme? What would you say to them to try and, reframe their mind to making money slow and doing it the right way, like you have?
The way I think about mindset is that you have 3 settings, and there's reptile, there's autopilot, and there is visionary. So reptile is the dumbest part of your brain, and it's fight, flight, freeze, freak out, have tantrums, throw toys out the pram, and it's also really stupid. So that part of the brain loves anything. If I say it's passive income, or it's a big win, or you're going to get rich quick, or look at this Ferrari, or look at this Lambo, look at this guy who's on a yacht. Right, so that part of the brain is just like, oh, really? Oh, okay. I get it.
It's great for getting the views on YouTube. Like we use the passive income thing all the time, but then we switch their mindset in the videos.
Yes.
So you need to get them in somehow.
Yeah, you got
People
to
love
hook that reptile. The reptile loves all of that stuff, and it loves food, and it loves gambling, and it loves sex, and all that sort of stuff. The autopilot is you just doing your habits. It's basically a part of your brain that just figures out what works, and it just repeats what didn't kill you, basically. It's not what works. It figures out what didn't kill you last week and does the same thing. So if I drive this way, I can just drive on autopilot. You know, some people have really great habits. They go to the gym 4 times a week because that's their habit. They just feel weird if they don't do it 4
I've been
times a
doing
week.
that. I don't know.
I can tell.
I don't know if you can-
Are you okay on that couch? Like,
I'm managing for now,
We
but
can
it's,
get another
it's-
one maybe.
It's
We can
getting
have
out
one
of
each.
hand. That's why we're rebuilding the studio now, because them little chairs that we had, I didn't
Not gonna
even-
fit.
They don't work for me no more.
Yeah, so autopilot, you want to kind of assess, do I have good habits or bad habits? If I were to extrapolate these habits over 10 years, does this lead somewhere inspiring, or is this probably something that is going to drain me?
I've noticed that it seems that the majority of people are in that sort of auto cycle, but it's not necessarily always bad. Like it's not always leading to something bad, but it's also not even necessarily leading to anything at all. And it's just like, yeah, I'm just living my life. And you kind of ask them why, or what's your ambition, or what do you actually want to do? And they go, well, what do you mean?
Don't know.
Yeah.
And that's that top part of the brain. So the top part of the brain I call the visionary. And the visionary is the part that can zoom out, and it's all the complex emotions: love, compassion, strategy, empathy. It's the ability to think through time and space. So it's like thinking ahead. So for example, thinking through time is like, where would I be at age 40, age 50, age 60? If I continue, so you're thinking on bigger time scales. Most millionaires think in decades. And then you say, okay, the thinking through space is zoom out to the level of the atmosphere, look down on Earth and say, what's the market opportunity if I zoom out? I know that sounds really weird, but I do a lot of that. So I might look, if I'm starting a business, I might actually visualize the planet from out in space and think about, well, I wonder how many cities around the world have that same market opportunity. Is this the best city in the world? Where should I focus my attentions? So I'm like zooming out. If I'm feeling super stressed, right? Like I'm like, oh, this feels like it's a really big stress. I'll do a little visualization of like zooming up above London, up past the clouds, out into space, see the Earth, zoom out and say across time and distance, does this really matter? And it's like, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get back to the visionary, because the visionary's got all the answers. It's 15 points of IQ smarter than the rest of the brain. So your brain, your IQ is not fixed. Your IQ as a reptile is 15 points lower than normal. Your IQ on autopilot is your sort of resting IQ. And your visionary has 15 extra points of IQ where you can think really intelligent strategy if you're in that mode, but you've got to get yourself into that mode. So what most people are doing is they're living their life in reptile autopilot, and you've got to get yourself into visionary mode. You've got to be thinking, 3 steps ahead, and you've got to be thinking of empathy, putting yourself in your customer's shoes. What does it feel like to be in their world? How do we see the world with a bit more of a longer time horizon and see the world as 8 billion people rather than the few people that are around?
What would you say to someone that gets stuck in that visionary mode? Because I know these boys make fun of me because I'm always making these plans for 10 years time. And I find that really exciting, but then I find it hard to do the day-to-day tasks. So I'm thinking about, where is this going? What's the big vision?
So success tends to be a team sport, and we all have different strengths. And some people genuinely have a strength, which is a visionary strength, where their strength is thinking in long time scales, and their strength is seeing trends and spotting different things. Other people have a strength, which is tasks, getting stuff done. And they can actually be in their visionary mode by figuring out the best way to get stuff done, how to automate it, how to make
That's what Tom does really well.
Yeah, so that's a practicality strength. So there's actually 4 key strengths that you can have as a person. So one is, if you take the 4 suits in a deck of cards, so clubs represents head in the clouds. It was originally clouds. So putting your head in the clouds is basically having vision. Hearts represents connecting with people. Spades represents doing the work, getting things done. And diamonds represents systemizing and refining and cutting it back to the most valuable bits. So a systemization or refinement process. So the 4 key values are represented in those deck of cards. And each person actually has one core strength that you can leverage.
I think we need someone with a spade, because we've got obviously the connection. I say you're the heart, you're the day-to-day tasks and helping out with
The tasks are spades.
Oh, okay. So what's the other one?
The diamonds.
The diamonds.
Diamonds is essentially monetization. It's
Okay, I guess that's what you do as well.
it's data, it's refinement, it's systemization. It's basically
That's me then.
Yeah.
I think between us, we are quite good at that. You're kind of like top of that funnel, and he'll have all these grand ideas and things for the future and stuff. And it's kind of my job to then take them and go, okay, but how can it actually be done? Can it be done? What are the problems with this? Which usually he obviously doesn't want to hear, because it'll get done. No, but like this could go wrong, this could go wrong, this could go wrong.
Like, you're being negative. No, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
We're going to make it happen.
But I guess you do need that.
You need it.
You need that seesaw,
yeah.
right?
So the bigger perspective that you guys will get is the chemistry is better than the individual strength. So having like a balanced team. If you think about a classical executive team, you've got a CEO who's meant to be the visionary. You've got a CFO who's diamond energy, refinement, cash flow. You've got the CMO who's connecting with the marketplace, heart's energy. You've got the COO who's getting work done and actually implementation. And it's the balance of that executive team that creates a great company. You can't just have a visionary person who doesn't have anything around getting done around them.
Or 3 visionary people, for example.
Yeah.
We'd just all be in the clouds all the time.
Exactly. All 3 task
We're
oriented.
all writing our 10-year plans on the flight next to each other.
Yeah. Or if you have 3 people who are CFOs and they're just constantly analyzing a spreadsheet, but no big picture going on, right? So you need the balanced team. It's the team dynamic that makes this whole thing work.
How important do you think mindset content is? Because like we've interviewed Grant Cardone, Luke Baumar recently, and lots of their content is directed at everyone to fix their mindset and think a little bit differently. One of the things Grant said is he wanted a helicopter, so he wrote it down for like 20 years. Did he say something like that?
And he was writing it down.
Yeah, he wrote it down every day for a certain amount of years, and that's why he got the helicopter. It was magic. And obviously there's a bigger appeal to that and the law of attraction. But how important is it for people to consume that type of content?
So I have a very simple view of mindset, and it's, are you being a reptile, an autopilot, or a visionary? And when I say visionary, right, your visionary is different to his visionary. Your visionary is looking at the process and saying, how do we do it better? What I'm interested in is, do any of these activities give me 15 points of extra IQ? So if writing down having a helicopter makes me feel visionary and gets me out of reptile and autopilot, then it's doing its job. Great. I'm thinking bigger, and I'm in the part of my emotions, and I'm in the part of my brain that is smarter, more connected, more empathetic, more strategic. So if we're doing things that trigger that visionary mindset, and this is all science-based as well. So if writing down having a helicopter helps you do that and makes you feel like, let's say you're living in a world that is very financially stressful, and that constantly triggers the reptile, and you've got some daily habits that get you to disassociate with that current reality. And like, I'm saying that for me, I visualize being up out in space and looking at the planet from more distance. That's a stupid thing to do, but it's a way of triggering the visionary. So if Grant's strategy for triggering the visionary is to just dream about what would I want if money was no object, that is actually an activity that would trigger the visionary. Also, gratitude journaling will do the same thing. If you stop thinking about how shit life is and you start thinking about what you're grateful for, that will also trigger the same sort of thing and put you in the visionary mind. What you're trying to do is unlock. You've got this full potential that sits at the top of the brain. And if you get the problem with the brain is that it was built in such a way that the lower parts shut down the higher parts. If a bear comes in here, we don't want to empathize with the bear and have a strategy for the bear and have a 10-year vision for the bear.
Could be a nice bear.
We want to punch the bear in the nose and run, right? So the goal
We'll
is...
let Kye do that. We'll run.
Yeah, exactly. Reptile...
He'll be the first out. He'll be the first out. Trust me.
No,
now.
that was Tom. That was last year.
He's got
Okay.
It's January. It's new year, new me. I said that earlier.
He's got bare arms.
Right?
So so fight, flight, freeze is the appropriate response. So it shuts down all the other parts of the brain and goes with that. The other thing too is autopilot is a great thing. If you live in a tribal situation, you walk down a path and there's bananas at the end of the path. It makes sense to keep walking down that path every single day, get the bananas and bring them back and not think about it. Just go do that thing because that's what made you survive last week. So why don't you survive again next week? So historically, there wasn't a great reason to be thinking about 10 years out. There wasn't a great reason to be thinking about grand plans, because for most of human history, we didn't have any ability to execute grand plans. So we have to relearn how to open up that part of our brain. But here's the good news. Everyone's got it. Every single person has moments where they feel like anything's possible. And on the flip side, I can take multi-millionaires, and if I trigger their reptile, they feel like their world is crashing down around them. They feel like they're going to lose it all. They feel like they don't have enough. They feel like they have to cut off these relationships because these people want stuff from me and I got to get rid of them out of my life. So they can go reptile mode as well. So we all have all three settings. So the step one, like my whole mindset philosophy is recognize, are you being reptile, autopilot, or visionary, right? If you recognize that you're anything other than visionary, take a breath, go for a walk, right? Journal, write down that you want a helicopter and get back in the game, right? Because we're working with our brains. We've got to have the right brain on.
In the beginning, do you have to be a reptile sometimes though to get the job done?
The reptile it's not useful for anything.
Not useful.
It's not useful. It's useful if a bear comes in.
Okay.
But you know when you're in reptile mode. Have you ever done anything amazing from reptile mode?
I suppose just cranking out TikToks day in, day out. Like that.
That's the auto
Maybe that
mode.
was autopilot. Yeah.
Reptile mode is like
Clenched jaw.
when people in the team, for example, will say something negative like, "Oh, I don't want to get up at 5 a.m. this morning" or whatever, and now we start checking each other and go, "Well, no." Lots of people would be very grateful to be doing a podcast today or getting up at this time or whatever. Or like when we're on a long flight, someone likes to complain a little bit, and we'll check you. And I think that is, we seem to manage that quite well, I think.
Yeah, like you'll go reptile if you haven't eaten, if you haven't slept. if you're physically uncomfortable, if you're in pain, if someone threatens your status, like if you get a really nasty comment in the comment section, fuck that guy. I'll find him and I'll fucking kill him.
When you first started getting a little bit of a taste of success, was there any part of you that thought, am I just overly lucky? Is this a fluke? Am I going to lose it all tomorrow? Or were you always secure that I can do it again and I can do it again?
Bit of both.
Because I guess now you've proven it. You've proven to yourself that it can be done.
I could start from scratch. And I do start stuff all the time, and I'm not worried about that. I've got the skill set now. Look, I built slowly in the sense that I did 2 years with a mentor, and I ran his business and I ran his sales and marketing, and I did sales and I did marketing, and I launched a regional side of his business at 19 and 21 years old. Crazy that he let me do that, but I got the chance to do that. 21 to 23, I ran my own multi-million-dollar business. Then we hit a good contract. We signed up a great contract, and everything clicked into gear. We went from millions to $1 million a month within 18 months. So it was a very fast boom. And then I negotiated an exit for 14 million. So I was like ready to sell, and we were getting ready. We had a massive breakdown in negotiations. Everything came massively unraveling, and I dropped back down to 2 million of annual revenue. And I had to rebuild from there, and I chose to come to the UK and all that sort of stuff. So I'd been through a few roller coasters, but it hadn't been like boom, boom. So it was sort of built and then bang. And then when I launched in the UK, I went from 0 to 4 million in our first year, 4 million pounds. So I went from complete standing start, suitcase, credit card. I launched everything on a credit card, and did 4 million pounds in the first year worth of sales. So at that point, I'm like, I can do this. And then soon after that, the global financial crisis happened, and the whole thing came crumbling down again. I went to 400 grand. I lost 90% of revenue the following year. And then I rebuilt again, and we went back into a multi-million pound business again. So by that point, I'm like, okay, I think I know how to do this.
And you trust yourself at that point because, yeah.
If you were now stripped of all of your money, but you could keep your knowledge, what steps would you take to become a millionaire again?
Let me put some ground rules on this.
You can make the rules on the show.
I got to make some rules. Here's some ground rules. When we do these type of activities, there's always someone in the comment who's like, oh, but what about someone who doesn't have shoes? What you said, walk over to there. What if someone can't walk? What if someone can't afford a phone? What if someone doesn't have a credit card? It's like, come on, if we're playing the what if game. So we have to agree somewhere on the spectrum, right? If I start from scratch, that's going to be very different to any of your listeners starting from scratch. Do I have my reputation or not have my reputation? How much of my knowledge do I have? Can I just walk in and say I built multiple multi-million pound businesses before or not, right? Can I leverage that stuff? So that would be a 10 out of 10 on that spectrum. 1 out of 10, I don't have shoes, I don't have a phone, I don't have a credit card. It's very hard to play this game if we sort of agree that I'm talking about someone who's a 5 on that spectrum, and then we keep dropping back to a 1, or we keep going up to a 10. And I'm not talking to you guys, I'm talking about the guys in the comments, right? Because I've seen these comments before. So where on the spectrum do we want to play?
I'll say you have a phone, an internet connection, but you've got all of the knowledge you currently have today.
But I can't reference
No reputation.
No reputation.
No case studies.
No
nothing
case
like
studies.
So
that.
you're just a normal guy. You just live at home with your parents. You've got a phone.
Okay.
But with your knowledge.
Okay. I'm gonna redraft this.
Right,
so
go.
the normal guy who lives at home with the parents should probably go be a number 2 or a number 3 on a team. Should probably not be off starting a company and building a multi-million pound business. Go do your apprenticeship first. Can we move it to like a 5 or a 6?
Sure.
5 or a 6, you've already got access to 20 grand. You've got credit cards. You've got a Zoom account. You've got
2 pairs of trainers.
You've got 2 pairs of you've got smart shoes and trainers.
Like that.
So you're not sitting. We're not talking about someone who's struggling for food and living at home with the parents and all that sort of stuff. I think there's entrepreneurship is a black belt move, and it's an advanced move. There's nothing wrong with calling it that. Most people start out in a job, and then they learn their skills and they get some background and some reputation. They go out and start a business. The average age of a successful startup founder is 42. So, when it's normally not people living at home with the parents. So if we can keep to that.
Maybe we should backtrack a bit, because there will be people in the comments that don't have any money, that do want it. Like you said, get an apprenticeship or go to work as a number two. So what should they be looking for in that first job they get? Because a lot of my friends in the early days didn't want to commit to a job because they wanted to be an entrepreneur, but they felt like they were pigeonholing themselves into a job for life.
So I would encourage them to go something like work for a small company that has less than 20 people, so that you get full visibility of how everything works. When you're a company that has less than 20, you're going to be able to see how the sales team sell and how the marketing team generate leads and how the entrepreneur interacts with the team. You'll hear about someone, we need to hire someone. You'll see the whole process as to how someone got hired. If you work in a large corporate, you don't get any of that. They stick you off in the corner. Oh, there's a new person who got hired. I don't know where they came from. Oh, there's leads that show up. I don't know where those leads come from. There's a sales script. I don't know why we have this sales script. I'm just meant to say this thing. So the problem is if you work in a large corporate, you are just a tiny little cog in their machine. You don't get to see the machine very, 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 very rarely. You don't have any access to the senior leadership team or any of that. So you're not going to learn very much. So you want to be in a small company. Secondly, you want to be on the demand generation side of the business. So all businesses have supply and demand. Supply is looking after customers once the customers are there, and demand is making sure that there are customers in the first place. So marketing and sales. You want to be in a marketing or sales role because entrepreneurship starts with marketing and sales. And if you can't do the marketing and sales, it doesn't matter whether you can supply or not. So the hard problem's marketing and sales. The easier problem is that. And you also probably want to see if you can do something that gets you visibility of the finances. So you can see the money flowing through the business.
Does it matter what company you pick? Because a lot of people will think, I don't know what business I want to start in the future, but I kind of need to know that before I join a team, so I learn the right business.
As quick as possible, you want to learn business from someone who runs a good growing business. I would say you want to choose someone who's an ambitious entrepreneur. They've got a good little team forming. Maybe they've won an award. Maybe they've got some good positive PR. Maybe the founder is a bit of an influencer and has 10,000 followers, something along those lines that sort of tells you that this is not just you don't want to go work at a fish and chip shop. You want to go and work at, an ambitious startup where there's an ambitious rhythm of conversations going on. So your first job is to make one sale, and the sale is sell yourself onto a team that's already got momentum. You're going to learn business that way. And to stop thinking that you're going to be able to start a business off the back. Most multi-millionaires, they always reference the mentor that they worked for. And it's not a mentor that they watched YouTube videos on, it's that they worked for. There's a guy who I know who is considered to be one of the most successful CEOs in Europe, worked for Larry Ellison for several years and was like in the same office as Larry Ellison of Oracle. These relationships form. You want to do an apprenticeship under an inspiring entrepreneur first, and then I'm only talking about two years, right? Do 2 years on the team. That's if you're under a 5, right? So if you're on that scale of 1 to 10, if you're under a 5, you're in no business starting a business, right? You have a side hustle if you want to have a side hustle, but I would recommend just go all in working for someone who's got traction, got momentum, join a team, try and be a number 3 or a 4 on the team, try and be in key meetings. Turn up early, leave late. That's what entrepreneurs do anyway. When you get given a task by the person who's the founder, over-deliver on that task as fast as humanly possible, because they're testing you. It's not the task there; it's a test. So pass the test.
What do you think about working as a freelancer instead of necessarily joining that team full time?
A freelancer is shit.
I mean, that's how I started. I started out as you're calling me shit. I started out as a videographer, and then I worked in multiple different teams, and I saw how business coaches operated.
But you grew up in a business family.
Yeah.
So you actually had that, that awareness that I'm talking about. The reason I say freelancer is shit is because you essentially have all the hard work of a job without the upsides of a scalable business. So you might as well have a job. And you have all the stress of a business without the security of a job. So you essentially, you've got the worst of two worlds. As quick as possible, you want to become an entrepreneur, not a freelancer. Business is a team sport. You're going to have to build a team if you want to be a millionaire.
At the start, just to go kind of link those two things together though, I also started freelancing when I was about 18. And one of my first clients was a startup. and they built an app for referees, for football referees. So very niche, nothing to do with my interest at all. You'd think there's nothing to learn there. But I was contracted to do a certain amount on a retainer for them every single month. And I chose to do that work in their premises, in their office, small team of like 5-6 people. And doing that, to go back to what you said there, let me see how they do payroll and accounting and how they manage the teams and how they do the meetings and how they sketch plans out on the whiteboard. So it was nothing to do with the industry. It was nothing to do with what I was even doing for them, but it was just being in that scenario.
Right. Well, I take it back. If you can be a freelancer with the purpose, with the vision, with the outcome of getting in on those meetings, if you can actually be doing it so that that's your way of being part of those teams, and that's the best way to be part of maybe even 2 or 3 different teams, then that's fine, right? But the key is that you're not doing it to be a freelancer. You're doing it to do your apprenticeship. You're actually doing it to get behind the curtain and see what really happens behind the curtain, so that you can then have those real life lessons, and also you're going to, what we really want is that you can earn some money and save some money, that you can get a credit card, that you can get, a laptop and a phone and all of those sorts of things, that you can build some credibility, that you can say that you've worked on some projects that succeeded, that you can draw from that experience, you can get some recommendations or referrals from people you've worked with. So that sort of stuff, it's building your foundations pre-business, right? So let's just level that off.
So freelancer sometimes shit.
Sometimes
just
shit.
sometimes.
If you think that freelancer on its own is the end goal, yeah, right? It's a good stepping stone to learn.
Yeah, I know I met a few makeup artists actually, that I said, oh, you're going to be doing this in a couple of years. What's your long-term vision? And they went, yeah, I'm just going to keep doing this. Whereas I was like, no, I think I'm made for more. I want to do more with my life. I'm seeing what these guys are doing. I want to implement some kind of business. I can't be working day in, day out. I was working like long nights sometimes just on some edits. So it's just not sustainable.
And I guess the problem is you become the violin player rather than the conductor of that orchestra.
Yeah. And a lot of great conductors start out as violin players. So it's not necessarily bad if you know that that's a stepping stone. Ultimately, you never get too far ahead if you're selling your time for money. So ultimately, you need to develop intellectual property, media, software, other assets that are going to be the fundamentals of your business. So if we basically say that's 1 to 5 level, and then obviously you could start out as a super experienced entrepreneur, that's level 10. So if we sort of said that we're at like 5 or a 6 or a 7 in the game of like 0 to $1 million, how about that?
Sounds good.
All right.
So what's next?
I do have one more question. I know you want to move on to 5.
No, fine.
But I know a lot of people in the comments that they did last time. They said, you found a mentor. My dad found a mentor when he was younger. I obviously had a mentor built in. They think it's luck that you're able to find that mentor. How do you sell yourself to that person or that small business in the first place? I think that's the step that most people are missing.
So everything happens because you pitch it into existence. So what happens is that we pitch our life into existence. We speak it into existence. So what you have to do is pitch this into existence. What do I mean by that? You start walking around to everyone you know and say, I really want to join a startup. I want to join a fast growth startup with an inspiring founder. I want to join their team doing sales or marketing or something like that. I'm looking for that opportunity. And you just tell people, that's what I'm looking to do. And someone will say, I know someone who does that. I know someone who's got a startup. Oh, I work in this company and we actually have this startup that we work with. Maybe I could make an introduction. And you say, I'd really, really like that introduction, right? And then you contact that person through a warm referral and you basically say, thanks for the introduction. I'd really like to have a meeting with you just to talk about whether I could join the team. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. So how I did it was exactly that. I was very unhappy at university. I started telling people I'm unhappy at university and I want to join a startup. I want to join something. I want to leave and work for an inspiring entrepreneur. I want to work for someone who inspires me. I want to work really, really hard, do whatever I'm told and learn. I'm looking for someone who can kind of take me into their team. And then through family connections, we know someone who's starting a business at the moment. Don't know how it's going to go, but if you want, I can make an introduction. Maybe you can have a meeting. I got a 30-minute meeting, knock on the door, and I turned up early, pumped, ready to go, ready to try and sell myself. Ended up having a 3-hour meeting with the guy. And he basically said, look, we haven't got a business name or a bank account. We're getting started right from the beginning. Now, what was lucky is that we worked hard and we ended up building like 6 million of revenue in 2 years. or building up to 6 million of revenue in the 2 years. Built a team of 60 people. So yes, it did work out really well. If it wasn't working out really well, I would have started pitching, I want to join another startup. This one's not taking off. I want to be part of a startup that takes off. So the thing is, you can sit, like if people put as much energy and effort as they do into complaining, into just pitching for stuff that they want, they'd get liftoff.
So in a way, it is kind of luck that you found your mentor, but you can increase your luck by putting more of those feelers out.
Yeah, you can also decrease your luck by complaining. No one wants to work with someone who's like, what about the person who does this?
Do you need something tangible to offer though? Because for example, we get 100, not 100 DMs a day, but we get a lot of DMs every single day saying we'll do anything, we'll work for free. And granted, if they got into the circle, they'd learn so much.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like we also need something in return to make that worthwhile.
It's more of a burden, isn't it? If they say, we'll work for free. Well, actually,
Yeah.
we're going to be teaching you for free and you're not actually going to be helping us out very much.
But you guys are past the point, right? You're already a super fast growth business, right? So it's already too late for people to do that. The other thing too is because you're talking about this stuff, everyone's going to be attracted. You need to join a startup that's early stage, that doesn't have like millions and millions of viewers every day. All of that sort of stuff is going to, like, you can't be too obvious. Like if you say, oh, I need a girlfriend, I know, I'll go and just contact that girl on the front cover of the magazine that
Right.
right? It's like, well, it's too late for that, right? You know, she's already on the front cover of the magazine. You guys are already on the front cover of the magazine. So it's too much of a jump. What you're looking for is someone who doesn't have thousands of people every year saying that sort of stuff. You're looking for someone who's excited because you've got time and passion, and that you're going to follow orders and take a little bit off their time, a little bit off their plate. Go for that.
What you're saying is exactly right, because if you think about it, it's exactly what I did. Like I had a little thing going, a little side hustle. I was making some money.
No, it wasn't a little thing. It was pretty good. It was pretty
Yeah,
impressive.
I was doing pretty good. Just like a 1 year business that I did through the pandemic, and then
How much did you turn over?
span it into working with these guys. And I get the same thing in our Discord. Someone was saying something, and he's like, you struck gold, you get to learn from Mark and Curtis Tilbury and all of that stuff. And it's like, yeah, but when I was doing that, what were you doing though? You know, where were you to be seen when I was capitalizing
But I
on
think
these
we struck
opportunities?
gold as well, because you brought a lot to the team, and we wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for you coming on board.
Yeah, because I think the channel was about 400,000 subscribers at the time, so it was much smaller. We didn't have, all of this stuff. So it was a very, very different space.
I remember we were working late at night, coming up with content ideas, doing scripts and all of that stuff. And now you've transitioned into monetization, selling the ads and everything.
Mark doesn't agree though. When you said that we wouldn't be here without me, he pulled a really nasty face.
Well, he loves you really.
It's love. It's love.
Could we get that on camera, Mark?
You make a good point. You've always got to be moving ahead anyway. So when I didn't have that opportunity, I was running nightclub parties at my local nightclub and filling nightclubs and getting that happening. I was doing door-to-door sales on the weekend, setting appointments for a roof insulation company. That was proper, like just eating dog shit, right? That was just knocking on doors and, are you interested in roof insulation? Right. So like I was moving. When I went and spoke to John, and he said, well, tell me a bit about yourself. I've just been running 6 nightclub parties. We've had over 1,000 people attend at each of our nightclub parties, $10 a head. So we've made 10,000 a night, 6 nights in a row, 6 times. And he was like, oh, that's cool. That's great. Like you're 18, 19 years old and you're filling nightclubs. Most people, are not doing anything like that. And then he said, what sales experience have you had? Well, I've just been a door-to-door salesman, knocking on doors. I get paid per appointment that I set. I'm out there 4 or 5 hours every Saturday morning. It's like, oh, wow, okay. Well, if you're willing to eat dog shit, then you probably, you're going to do well. You can hit the phones and pick up the phones. So I wasn't just sitting there going, oh, I need a lucky opportunity. Like I was doing the best thing I had access to at the time. It's like, I'll take that step. It's a 1 step forward. I'll keep looking. And
I've heard you say before a few times, I think that you would have been successful with or without John, but that having that mentor just sped up the process. So you weren't just waiting on them to hand you everything. They were just kind of an amplifier to
Yeah, and I even cut out a piece of the story there. There was a guy called Blake that I did go and try and work for his startup. And within 3 months, I knew that this wasn't going to go anywhere. And that was actually, I quit with Blake and went and found John. So, I did actually, there was a part of the story where I actually went and joined a startup that wasn't right.
Yeah, I think it's really important to try and understand the business that you're applying for as well, trying to get into the team with, because the way that you approached it, you had suggestions of things we could do better. I was like, this guy's really on my wavelength. He's thinking the same way and he could add to the business. And it didn't feel like a burden. It felt like I was bringing on an asset.
Yeah, and then I also obviously had the bit of leverage where it's like, well, I'm already making £1,000 a week anyway with what I'm doing. So then it positions me as someone that knows something because he's doing well in the first place. And then also I was constantly consuming the type of content that we created. So I was completely plugged into that world. I was like, you know, I've got £30,000 invested. You make investing content. So I understand that as well. And just constantly positioning myself to win in that area.
And you weren't playing any games with the text messages as well. Like I messaged you, came back 1 second later, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And then we could do the deal right then and there. And I knew you were the guy. Otherwise, if you were just thinking, oh yeah, I'll keep him waiting for a bit, then it wouldn't have worked because I knew that you weren't on it.
Yeah, no, I'm not fucking around. I'm looking to get in there.
So anyway, let's get back to 5. You wanted to get to that step 5.
Let's make millions, right? Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do the
fun bit.
Yeah, let's do the fun bit. Okay, so here's what the first 4 things you need when you're going to start a business is you need chaos, concept, audience, offer, sales, CAOS, right? So you got to have a good concept. That's the idea. You got to build an audience, you got to construct an offer, and then you got to make sales. Those are the 4 fundamentals of getting started. So the first thing I would do is let's walk through those 4 fundamentals. So concept is essentially, what are you going to be working on? And typically there's a few different ways you can approach that. If you've got any success story from the last 3 years, you can turn that success story into a business. So there's a sentence that I always like to kind of play with, which is, for a certain type of person, we did something very special and it got a rare and valuable result. So if I look back through my last 3 years and say, was there a certain type of person that we did something special and we got a rare and valuable result? If I can find a story that meets that criteria, there's a business in that. So you might say, oh, I worked with someone to double their LinkedIn following. We posted every day for 9 months and it actually got them 10,000 followers on LinkedIn. Well, bang, there's a LinkedIn management software, LinkedIn management service there. You might say, oh, we sold all these clothes online. We went around to the neighbors and we got all their clothes and we did a 50-50 deal and we sold those online. Okay, maybe there's a business opportunity in that. So anything where you did something, got a great result, and you can analyze that case study, there's potentially a business in that. So that's one angle to go with.
What if you haven't necessarily done that? If someone's sat there thinking, I've had a job, but I haven't really done anything got a result.
I'm just gonna, I got to,
and I really feel for people like that because so many people don't have an idea, and that's the hardest part. And I really do feel for people.
Remember,
like that.
This is why I put down the ground rules.
Okay,
right? I put down the ground rules for exactly this. But
breaking the rules, man.
But what if I? But what if I'm just? What if I can't talk to people?
What if I am a worm?
What if I'm
in
a
the
worm?
ground?
You've been the hater.
What if I was just a puddle?
Yeah, you are right.
Right,
you are right.
So we got to get past that, and it doesn't have to be the world's biggest success story, but you got to find something that was a success story. And it can be that you worked on a team that did it, that you were working in a company, and we took a British business and launched them in France, and it's like, okay, great, we now have the possibility of taking British businesses to France. Whatever it is, you've done something in your background and you've achieved a success story. You can expand upon that, turn it into a business. If you're ready to start a business, you probably have 3 or 4 to choose from. So that's, in answer to your question, if you're the person who's ready to be a number one, a founder, then you've probably got plenty to choose from. And if not, go join a team, right? So go rewind 15 minutes, watch the last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
That's one approach. The next approach is you can go onto startup awards. So there's websites where they list who are the finalists for startup awards. And these are new businesses that are really going gangbusters. And you want to go through and start making a list of all the stuff that is trending at the moment. So you might say, oh, look at all these AI businesses. Or you might say, look at these gardening businesses. I didn't realize that, gardening or roofing or putting boilers in. You can go looking at these kind of like startup awards, see who are all the finalists, who are the companies that are winning, see if that triggers any ideas for you. So that's another way to come up with an idea. Another amazing way to come up with an idea is go to someone who's already super successful and ask them 2 questions. One question is, what do you think is a really good business idea, but you just don't have the time for? And they'll go, oh, this. And you say, if I were to do it, would you take 10% of the business in order to be a guide or a mentor or just open some doors? No fixed time requirement, but like, I'll go and do that idea. Or you might ask them, if they're a really big business, what do you think you want to acquire? Like, what sort of businesses would you love to buy? If you were to buy a business for 20 million, what do you think would be a purchase, a $20 million business or a 20 million pound business that you want to buy? It's really nice to kind of start with exits. If you can go talk to an investment banker and ask them, what sort of businesses are selling? What sort of businesses do you think are going to be selling in the next few years? What are you hearing out there in the world about what businesses become very valuable? They'll give you a blueprint. They'll actually say, well, it should have recurring revenue and it should have some proprietary technology. It should have at least 35 employees. So they're going to go through and go, boom, boom, boom. These are the things that a $20 million business is going to look like. So you can actually start with that end in mind. So there's different ways to approach. What I think you should do is start with a journal and start coming up with ideas. Every day, come up with a new idea until you get 10 to 20 ideas, right? And then you start narrowing it down to the 3 that you really like, that you feel a sense of passion and alignment to, and then shop them around, talk to experienced entrepreneurs and say, I'm going to start either 1, 2, or 3. Can I ask you, what do you like or hate about this? What do you like or hate about this? What do you like or hate about this? Give them 3 things. Never ask, what should I do? Say, I'm going to do 1, 2, or 3. Which one do you think I should do and why? That way people can get their head around it. It's a very hard question to answer. What should I be doing with my life? No one's got the answer for that. So should I do this, or this, and why?
I think what's really interesting about all of this is you've looked at everything from what does the market want? What does the market need? What have I done for other people in the past? You haven't mentioned anything to do with what do I enjoy or what are my interests or what are my passions? Why is that?
Well, the brain is very easily fooled into what is passion. If you play Super Mario, within a few seconds you get ding, ding, ding. There's a little money popping out the box. And then a few seconds later, ding, ding, ding. And that starts a dopamine loop. And suddenly you'll spend hours and hours playing Super Mario. If I had have asked you, are you passionate about Super Mario? You're like, not really. Until you start playing it and it gets you hooked. I've met people whose business is construction and they're suddenly passionate about construction. And it just happens to be that they make $4 million a year from construction. And I've met people who are passionate about recruitment because every time they make a recruitment sale, they make 60 grand. It's funny when that little box goes ding, 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 you get passionate pretty quick.
But I guess there's some instances where people might have hobbies, for example. I might like baking or football or golf. And people as advice to them would be, well, why don't you start a bakery or start a golf teaching course or whatever?
Yeah, I'm not big on that because there's a very good chance that it's a hobby for a reason. Anything that sounds cool is probably saturated. A lot of those businesses are high volume, low value businesses like bakeries and all of that sort of stuff. So I'm not big on that sort of thing. I'm big on identifying a market opportunity. Now, with that said, passion should be that you feel an alignment to the work, right? So the type of work that you'll be doing, you can get aligned to it. You can actually say, I'm looking forward to doing that work. Me personally, I don't really like working with my hands, like physical labor. I'm not a thingy kind of guy. I like working with my mind. I wouldn't take on any business that really kind of was a hands-on, get your hands dirty kind of business, literally get your hands dirty business. I know that I don't look forward to that kind of work. So there are certain things that I kind of would rule out because it's like I just know myself well enough that I'm not going to push through and do that sort of thing. I want to do something that I feel excited reading about, and I feel excited by the opportunity of it. And I like the idea, not just of the money, but I like the idea of the type of work. I could see myself doing that type of work. I could see myself getting through it. Here's the other thing. We talked about snowboarding earlier. I hated snowboarding in the beginning. It was only after I got reasonable at it that I loved it, and I love it. I hate having a year where I don't go snowboarding. I want to go snowboarding every single year now. I just absolutely love snowboarding, but I hated it in the beginning. But also, no one's going to pay me to snowboard. So it's not a business, it's a hobby.
How about the people that see YouTubers making so much money and they want to become a YouTuber when they're older? I think it's one of the most popular things kids want to do when they grow up.
So early stage, go work for a YouTube channel, see what it's like behind the scenes, join a team, and then see if you still want to do that afterwards. There is something called a moving bus, right? So a moving bus is an opportunity that has left the station and you're now chasing a moving bus. So you got to figure out, is this a long-term opportunity that has new entrants and new entrants can do well? Or is this a moving bus that you just had to be around in 2006? And if you weren't, like, unfortunately, this thing's moved.
Let's say I'm standing at the bus stop and it's raining and I'm waiting for the next few buses to come by. What are those next few buses, in your opinion, those big industries, those big opportunities that are coming in 2024 to 2027, for example?
AI is the biggest bus in town, right? AI is everything at the moment. So
Double-decker bus, that one.
Do you not think it's left the station though? Because it seems like everyone's making startups around AI and they're not actually their own software. It's just built on the back of ChatGPT.
That's fine. So in the early days of electrification, they came up with electricity and people said, oh, I'm going to create a kettle. I'm going to create a toaster. I'm going to create a this, that, and the other. So people created stuff that plugged into electricity. And essentially most of those startups are doing the same. They're saying we don't have to train a large language model because that exists, but we can find a way to use a large language model to add value. And we're gonna create a kettle or a toaster for AI. So essentially those businesses will make millions. I've got 2 of those businesses and they're already like, crushing it. So, I came up with an idea recently called bookmagic.ai with my team. The team actually came up with it. We just ran a waitlist campaign and off the back of the waiting list had like 1,000 people sign up to the waiting list. Off the back of that, we raised 300,000 for 10% of the business. So a £3 million valuation on day one, pre-revenue. Now we've got a team. We've got this thing ready to rock and roll. We'll end up with 4,000 people who pay $40 a month within about a year or so. So we'll have 160,000 a month of recurring revenue. That's getting close to 2 million. That puts you at a 10 to 20 million valuation. These things go, so this is a real thing. AI is a real thing and it's going to be a real thing certainly in that time frame.
When you raise that 300,000, would you say that that's based off the credibility that you already have, or is that 1,000 people on a wait list and a good idea enough to get you free? Because 300,000 for 10% of a business that isn't making any money, it's quite favorable terms for you, I would say. So how are you able to actually get that? Is that because you are Daniel Priestley or because of the product?
There's a bit of that. So who is the leadership team is definitely a core consideration. It wasn't just me as a leadership team. We've got an expert in publishing. We've got a great CTO who's built stuff for Lloyd's Bank and all these kind of things. So we've got an amazing leadership team, all-round leadership team. We had 1,000 people on the waiting list. Everyone who joined the waiting list was asked about price points that they were willing to pay and goals that they were willing to achieve. So we were able to extrapolate that data really, really effectively. Our CFO built a financial model with fairly sensible assumptions that goes 3 years into the future, and it looks at how many users we can add, how much will churn, and it's based upon expert level insights into how these businesses work. So then when you project it forward, you go, okay, this business conservatively could be worth 30 million within 3 or 4 years. So 3 million to get in and get a 10x return as an angel investor is essentially what they're looking for. Most angel investors know that they're investing into something that's pre-revenue. So they're looking for a sensible leadership team with a good market opportunity, with validation and data and a sensible plan to exit. And then they're just looking to what would be, if I take the day of exit valuation and then I bring that down by 5 or 10, multiple of 5 or 10, then we say, okay, well, great. That's a sensible way we can get on.
At the stage that you're at now with all the money that you have, why raise money and not just fund it yourself?
Because when you exit, there's a few things that really help. A valuation story is very helpful. So if you're selling a business that's 100% owned, it doesn't have what you consider to be a valuation story. So a valuation story is basically smart angel investors came in and valued the business at 3 million here. Some more came in and valued it at 6 million here. Some more came in and valued it here. And essentially what you're doing is building a valuation chart. So the reason that Apple shares or Microsoft shares are very easy to trade is they have a long history of trading, and people can see that history of trading. So therefore you're establishing points of valuation in the market. You're establishing data points. Investors love data points. There's other reasons too. Angel investors often bring in the exit. They want an exit as well. So if you choose the correct angel investors, you've now got 20 people pushing the wheelbarrow rather than one. So it's not even about the money. It's just having good people who have stuck a little bit of money in. It puts it on the top of their mind awareness. I only ever raise 15 grand from a sensible angel who's got plenty of money. I'll take 15 grand. So I'll take 20 angel investors. So now I've got 20 people who have probably built and sold stuff before, who are now aware of the business, invested in the business. They're out there looking for opportunities. They're out there looking for the exit. So all of that just makes my life super easy. If I do that, it means that I can have multiple businesses rather than just one.
Does it also presumably get rid of a little bit of risk on your part if you haven't invested millions of your own money into a project?
The biggest risk is that you get obsessed with your own ideas and that you don't get the ideas punched up by someone who's smarter and more objective. So the biggest risk is not the money. The biggest risk is that I'm obsessed that everyone's got to have a stripy coffee cup and I'm going to put everything into my stripy coffee cup business. And then a sensible third party says, Dan, look, I know you're passionate about this, but there's nothing that says that this is very different. Like especially something like AI, you said, oh, is it really? So I want to get other angel investors asking tough questions. Well, where did you get that assumption from? Why do you think the churn's only going to be 7% per month? Why did you not choose a higher number? How do you think you're going to get these 160 new users every single month? Where are they going to come from? Why do you think it's going to cost £12 per lead and not £16 a lead? Right. So when you go through a good process of angel investors, they want to have a look at the financial forecast. They want to have a look at the business plan. Who might you exit to? Have you thought of this? They often raise way better ideas. They're more objective. They're seeing it clearly from a different side of the table. So it really comes down to this. It's professionalism. You can be an entrepreneur who says, oh, I'm going to try and get as much of the equity as possible because I'm going to put in my own 300,000 and then I don't have to report to anyone and I don't have to there's no governance, there's no board meetings, it's just my business. Okay, that's a great thing for a lifestyle business. But if you want to build something and sell it, you want governance, you want smart people around, you want objectivity, you want people asking tough questions. So it's what I would call a professional level of entrepreneurship. Why would Lewis Hamilton have other people changing his tires? He could change his tires himself. Why would he have an external person who owns the team? He's rich, he could own his own Formula One team. Well, everyone brings something to the table. So when you say I'm committed to a level of professionalism as an entrepreneur, you want to go through a worn path of how businesses become valuable. You want to follow what's called best practices as to how a business becomes valuable and exits.
Okay, so still in this idea stage, if someone's listening to you and they've heard about AI and they decided, I want to do something in AI, what are some opportunities right now that they could focus on that aren't being fulfilled?
Quite literally, every industry globally is going to have to think about how it exists with AI. So everything's up for grabs. You take any industry you know anything about and ask the question, well, what does AI do to this industry? What is the opportunity that AI, what's the threat? Who stands to make money? Who stands to lose money? So AI is what's called a general purpose technology, which is like internet, electricity, printing press, combustion engines, steam engines. These are all general purpose technologies, which means that they impact all industries at all levels. So AI is the mother of general purpose technologies. It literally impacts every industry at all levels. So you can, it's almost, there's too much to look at, but you could say, how does AI impact, I've previously been a lawyer. How's it going to impact law? What does a co-pilot for lawyers do? What is the one tiny little thing that I can pinpoint here that I know a lot about, and how do I get AI to do that thing? So there's also just literally the whole world has just become a massive pool of opportunity simply because we have a new general purpose technology.
So I guess you could have a business that just connects you might have some sort of AI product, and then you can go and almost plug that into any other business and connect them to AI in that way? Or is it best to pick a more specific niche of like, we're just working with lawyers who want this product?
Yeah, I rather than the word niche, I always prefer the word campaign. So campaigns work when there's a very focused campaign. So let's say if I was Nike, if I said these shoes are for everyone who plays any sport, that's not a focused campaign. So those shoes won't sell very well. But if I say these are skateboarding shoes and these are basketball shoes and these are tennis shoes, then, I play tennis, I need the tennis shoes. I skateboard, I need the skateboarding shoes. So these are called focused campaigns. When you're starting a business, you want to start with a focused campaign. You want to say, one day we'll do everything. But for now, we're just focusing on real estate lawyers who do tenancy agreements, and we do this, and we actually focus on this type of tenancy agreement. So you just drill into it and you say, that's the focus campaign we're going to launch with. we're just going to launch a nice focus campaign and see if we can make some sales there.
So you got your idea. What are you doing next? What are the next steps?
Next thing is audience. Now, this is really important. Don't build the idea unless you've got leads, right? So everything's downstream from lead generation. Everything starts with your ability to test the market before you build anything. So what most people do is we think about supply side versus demand side. Supply side is, can I build it? Can I create something that people will value? It assumes that you've got this flood of customers that may not exist. So what we need to do is instead, we need to launch something called a waiting list or a registration of interest list and start building an audience. So here's the couple of things that I'm going to do. I'm going to build an audience by setting up 4 lead magnets. I want to have a waiting list or registration of interest list. That's simply where people register because they know something's coming and they'd like more information. I'm going to create a discussion group, maybe Discord, maybe WhatsApp, but I'm going to invite people to join the discussion group about that topic. So I'll pick the topic that I'm talking about. So let's say I'm doing an AI startup for contract law or something like that. Okay, great. It's a discussion group for people who want to talk about how AI is going to impact contract law. And I'm trying to get people to join the group. I'm going to run an introduction event, how AI might impact this particular thing. And I'm going to run that every week for as many weeks as I can and try and get 4 or 5 people to hop on a Zoom call and do a live event. And I'm going to create what is called an online scorecard or assessment tool so that people can self-assess, do I need this thing in my life? So let's say I'm launching a fitness-related business. Are you ready to lose weight? Are you ready to run a marathon? Answer the quiz questions. So I've got 4 lead generators there, and I'm going to see if I can just do some cold outreach, DM 3,000 people, and I'm just going to start telling a bit about my story. So I might say, over the last 5 years, I've worked with companies to do this, this, and this. And we've really found that there's a great opportunity to improve this result while reducing stress and getting rid of the risks. Here's a wait list. Join the waiting list if you want some more information. We're going to be launching a business in the next 6 months, right? So I'll just send that to 1,000 people. Then I'll say, I've just come up with an online scorecard. So you can test whether you're ready to do X, Y, and Z, answer 15 questions, and it'll help you to see whether you're ready to launch a YouTube channel or ready to do a thing. Oh, okay, cool. I'll fill that in. So I'm testing my lead magnets, and I'm mostly using cold DMs, cold outreach. I'm aiming to send like 3, 4, 5,000 cold DMs. Anyone who's got a hashtag that indicates they're interested, anyone who's got something in their bio that might that they're interested, anyone who follows a certain account. And because they follow that account, they must be interested in that topic. I'm just going to message them all. And it's going to have a terrible result, right? Because obviously it's going to have a terrible result.
I remember doing that in the early days of starting my YouTube channel. I would go on to all of the top YouTubers, see who followed them most recently on Twitter, follow everyone back, and then send them an auto DM to check out my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And my it was a long process, but I managed to get about 15,000 subscribers on my first channel. And that helped the snowball.
It creates that first... You imagine business is like a big concrete wheel and it's so hard to get it moving, but once it's moving, it's hard to stop it. But you've got to just suck an egg and say, okay, first up, I'm going to do some cold outreach. So that's going to be one of the strategies. I'm going to be sending a lot of cold DMs and seeing what do they respond to. If I'm more advanced, I'll do A versus B. Are you interested in this or this? I'll send them to different landing pages to see testing, what is it? Every single one of those lead magnets, I'm going to be asking 5 or 6 questions. So name, email, and I'm trying to get a little bit of data. How have you experienced this problem? What are you hoping to achieve? What price point do you think is a reasonable price point for this particular thing? What have you tried in the past that didn't work? So I'm going to ask certain questions to try and figure out my marketplace pretty well. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to start hosting high-end dinners. Or lunches, and I'm going to get a very fancy restaurant with private dining, and I'm going to negotiate with them to try and get a few private dining experiences for maybe 40 or 50 a head, and fixed menu and all that sort of stuff. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to anyone who's influential in the industry and invite them to a private lunch at a really fancy place. So I'm going to say, hey, look, I've got this really nice restaurant in Mayfair. We've got a private dining experience for some of the top people in the industry. Would you like to come and join? And they go, oh yeah, fair enough. So I'm going to put 10, 15, 12 people around a table. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm launching a business in this space. I'd love to have a one-to-one with you. I'd love to talk to you about how we could get involved and how we could partner together. But for now, let's have a nice lunch, meet some people. I'm going to position myself as one of the top players in the industry as fast as I can through some private dinner experiences.
It's crazy you say that, because when we were in Orlando, we actually went to a private dinner, exactly like you're saying, and it was run by the startup, wasn't it, Dad? So yeah, they paid for the whole experience, and we were there, and they got all of these influencers together, and we thought, this is fantastic, they're so nice. But thinking about it with a business brain on, they were doing the exact right thing.
They were just moving straight into the top echelon.
Something that you just mentioned, the scorecards. How well does that work for people that may be looking to do a similar thing in terms of like acquiring customers and stuff? Because I'm thinking that like psychologically, if I'm answering questions and you're scoring me, it's kind of like, I feel like I want one of them Whoop bands, so that then when I wake up in the morning and it says you slept good, I can go, oh, I did sleep good, and then feel like I'm having a good day. So if it says 85%, this product is for you, it makes me think, oh, that is for me. But then also on the flip side, maybe if it says 15%, this isn't right for you, they think, well, no, fuck you. It is for me because I've said it's for me, and now I'm going to do it anyway, even though it told me not to, because I want to show you that I can do it, even though you're saying
Such
I
a
can't.
you mindset then. Most people would go, oh, maybe it's not for me.
No, I think a lot of people would still buy it.
It leverages something called assessment-based selling. Assessment-based selling is probably the most powerful way of selling anything. So rather than trying to sell the thing, you sell the assessment to see if you need the thing, and then the assessment gives you some valuable insights, and then that makes it very easy to sell the thing. So all of the medical industry is based on assessment-based selling. You go in there and say, I've got a sore arm, and they say, let's have an x-ray. And then they say, oh, now that we've got the x-ray results, we can see that your arm needs this, cast put on it. So that is essentially doing a diagnosis, and doctors sell the diagnostic, and then once they've got the diagnostic, then they sell the pharmaceutical product.
Okay, so this sounds like a great way for people to get started in acquiring customers. How actionably would you say for someone to actually go about doing that? So I have no idea how to do it. Okay. What should I actually do? How do I do it?
So it used to be really hard to do it, and it used to cost 10 grand to set these up. I set up 4 of these for 10 grand each, and then we built Score App. So there's a reason that I love these, because I built a startup around this. So Score App is this incredible platform that our team have built. AI does all the work. It writes 1,500 words worth of content. It lays out the landing page, and then it gives you the questionnaire, and then it gives you the results page. And it takes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes to just guide the AI. And then it does all the work for you, saving you about 10, 15 hours worth of work. And then you've got a scorecard, and you can set up a free account on Score App, and then you can pay $29 a month if you want to collect 100 leads a month. You can pay $59 a month if you want 1,000 leads a month. So it's very easy. It used to be very hard and very expensive, and what we've done is made it super simple, super easy. We've got 60 different templates in there. Thanks for the setup on the alley-oop there. Let's say you've got a mastermind. Rather than saying, buy my mastermind, it's like, see if you qualify for the mastermind. Take this questionnaire, see if you'd be accepted on the mastermind.
Yeah, it's like, see if we want you.
Yeah, totally.
And it creates that illusion of, like, there's a barrier to entry, which everyone wants to.
Or it could be a reality.
achieve.
It could be that you do have plenty of people, and you do want to have a level of people who come on board. Or you could ask, let's see if you'll get value from this sort of a mastermind. Maybe it's not for you, right? So the beauty of an assessment is it adds an objective measure as to whether you would need this or not, or want this or not. So powerful. It's actually one of the ways we scaled all the different companies. I've always been a massive fan of getting my sales team to take people through a checklist. So like a super basic example is just, we've got a checklist that figures out whether this is for you or not. Can I ask you some questions on the checklist? People love that, because then they're like, oh, it's an objective way of measuring whether I need this or not.
And I guess it's great for you as well to know that the customers that you then do acquire are, their lifetime value is probably going to be quite high, because there are people that actually are going to benefit, rather than, you could say, oh, I just want as many people. I don't really care selfishly if they're qualified or not, but they're not going to be good long-term customers. They're not going to leave reviews. They're not going to give you a good reputation.
They may even want a refund.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you cut all of that out with the assessment, and also it sets really good ground rules, it sets good expectations, all of that. So it's a great strategy. So the 2 things that I'm doing is I'm building an audience of my own through discussion groups and wait lists and scorecards, and I'm also building a high-level network at the same time. So I'm doing the dinners. Every week I'm going to be doing a lunch or a dinner. Like when I went to Dubai recently, I'm not hugely well known in Dubai, but one of the things I did is I've got a friend of mine who has a 100-foot yacht, right? Okay, what if you don't have a friend who? Right. I get
What
it.
if you're a worm?
I get that that's a step up from the puddle, but I've got a friend who's got a 100-foot yacht, and I said to him, mate, the 100-foot yacht is just sitting there. Can I invite 15 people onto the yacht? We do burgers. We do, we order some nice burgers and we have just hang out on the boat. We don't even take it out. He said, yeah, of course. I'd love to attend that. And I said, great. I'm going to bring some cool people. So I contacted all the people who I kind of tentatively arm's reach, second degree contact know. And I said, hey, look, I'm doing some burgers on the boat. It's a 100-foot yacht and some nice burgers. Would you like to come and hang out? Everyone said yes. Ended up with 15 absolutely phenomenal people, 10 million to 20 million followers between the group of people on that boat. And suddenly I'm in that Dubai scene. So when I go back to Dubai, I've now got 10, 15 people who are the top people. So by organizing one thing, now I get it. Okay, it's a yacht and blah, blah, blah. There's nothing that would genuinely stop you from reaching out to a yacht broking company and saying, hey, I can bring 15 top millionaires onto a boat if you want to host us for some drinks. Also, you can go to a really nice restaurant and say, if you've got a private dining, can we do a lunch on a day that you're normally quiet for 50 bucks a head, 50 quid a head? There's ways you can approach this, provided you're not a worm or a puddle. And then you can actually...
It's all about how many doors you actually knock on, because I see people as well, they make YouTube videos like, trying to travel across this ocean on someone's boat that I don't know, whatever. And they're going around and just asking people, like, I'm trying to do this thing. Can we do this? So, I don't know someone with a yacht, so therefore I can't do that. But how many people have you actually tried to speak to? Where have you positioned yourself to actually receive this luck? And just no one's doing that.
People tag themselves on a yacht, on a marina. You literally just say, hey, I notice you've got a yacht. I want to put on a party. Can we partner with it? I'll bring all these amazing people. And we don't even take the boat out. We'll just have some drinks on the boat. Right? You might have to contact 30 people in order to get a guest. Someone wants to do something with their yacht.
It's kind of like that high school dynamic, isn't it? Who's the most popular person in the high school? It's the person hosting the parties at the weekend. Exactly. And if you can be that host of the parties, then you're going to be popular in that industry.
That's totally it.
Yeah, I think we need a yacht.
No, we just need a friend with a yacht.
Friend with a yacht.
No, I think
or
we
a
need
friend
one.
with a friend with a yacht. There we go.
Exactly.
Oh, okay, yeah. Mark wants a helicopter instead.
It's hard to take 15 people on a helicopter. They got to really hang on.
It's difficult to fry the burgers as well on the helicopter.
But it's still cool though, and it would save a lot of time. Much more practical.
You know what you need to
beneficial.
do? Write it down in your journal. Wait 20 years, and then
obviously it's going to come from. Yeah, of course.
I noticed you didn't include content creation. You said about the groups and everything like that, but why didn't you say content creation?
Look, content creation's great if you put out some content about what it is that you're up to. Some people respond. I'm assuming that people don't have a huge following or audience, so yeah, okay, have some content. If someone goes searching and sees what you're about, they can see that you're doing that. But I want to be a bit more proactive. Content creation is kind of like attracting people, which kind of can happen slowly. I want to kick the door off the hinges. I want to reach out to people and say, do you want to come to I'm hosting a lunch. Do you want to come to the lunch? I'm going to be launching something. Do you want to join the wait list? So I'm creating stuff. I will probably put 3 or 4 bits of signature content around so that people can say, who is this guy and what's he up to and all that sort of stuff. So I might do a pitch video, or I might do a explainer video. I'm launching a business. I'm going to be doing that, sort of thing.
So you've qualified your idea. Let's presume that everyone on the yacht loved it. Everyone on the scorecards loved it. And everyone's saying, yeah, I'd buy this. What's the next step?
Okay, so I've got concept. Now I've got an audience building. The next thing is to fine tune the offer. So when we think about an offer, the schooling system taught us to offer our labor. That's what the offer is when you go through school. So they said, you are a piece of labor, and your job is to become more skilled as labor and then sell your labor to someone who has an idea as to what they might do with your labor. That was the original plan of the schooling system. So it's called component labor. So when you're an entrepreneur, your goal is to not be component labor. Your goal is to construct an offer that doesn't involve your time involved too much inside it. So think about this. If you're a fitness trainer and you sell hourly rates, £60 per session, let's say, that is selling your time for money. Imagine you said, I do body transformation programs. It includes some fitness training, some supervised fasting. It includes a signature library of books and podcasts that help you to shift your mindset. It includes some supplements. It includes some apps that we get to put on the phone. We have some boxing training, some yoga, right, just to spice it up over the next 3 or 4 months. And the whole package is £3,000. So now you're out there selling a package, and maybe some of it is your time to deliver in the early days, but actually you could package all those ingredients in and a lot of it's not your time, and you could kind of have some of it your time and a lot of it not your time. So you're creating an offer. So what I like to do is create things like landing pages and brochures, and I love to pretend that if I was Apple launching this, what would the Apple brochure or landing page look like for this type of product? If I was going to launch this in the other side of the world, let's say I'm going to launch it in Melbourne, it's like, okay, what would I do to create an offer that I have to get everyone to get the result that they want without me setting foot in that city? So it's like, okay, like someone wants weight loss. How do I remotely give them weight loss? What ingredients do I need to put into the package? I will normally create 3 offers. I'll create what I would call a gold, silver, and a bronze. So a bronze offer will be, maybe it's a couple of grand, and then a gold offer might be 10 grand. And by the way, I'm always thinking B2B or that sort of stuff. I'm not a big fan of consumer products because you need high volumes of sales. It's very hard for a small business to do. But I'm much more interested in like creating something that a small business could buy or a bigger business could buy or a wealthy individual could buy. So I'm interested in those types of things. Or at the least, if I'm doing a consumer product, I'm trying to create an offer for a channel partner so that someone else can sell into their consumer base. So I'm creating landing pages, and I'm creating PDF documents of my gold, silver, and bronze offer. And then I'm putting them in front of the audience for feedback. So I'm saying, so we've taken on board all of your feedback. We've spoken to over 30 or 40 of you, and here's what we've created. This is the offer we think is what everyone wants. And then I'm kind of saying, drop me an email, let me know what you think, answer some questions about it. Here's what I'm, do you want this in blue or purple? Do you want this to be extra large or small? Do you want this to have 10 things or 3 things? So like, I'm just kind of getting people to interact with the offer. And I'm one of the final questions is, are you interested in buying this when it's ready? And that's the true question. Like, yeah, actually I am. Fantastic. Would you be willing to put down a holding deposit of £250? Yeah, okay, yeah, I would. Okay, now we've got a good offer. So people are starting to put down a reservation deposit. They're starting to respond favorably. All of that's really good. So then I'm going to move across to sales. So I've done concept, audience, offer. Now I'm going to...
Just quickly, before you do that, I've got a personal trainer called Tom that's looking to branch out into doing online sales and selling packages rather than just selling one-to-one training sessions. He's booked out all of his time now, and he wants to move to that next level. What would you suggest would be a good course of action for him to take for his offer?
The main course of action is to think about the outcome that the customer wants and what is the outcome worth to that person, and essentially see yourself as the conductor of the orchestra who's in charge of getting that outcome. So Tom might say, I'm an expert in working with entrepreneurs who have busy schedules, and I'm an expert at getting them their fitness goals without interrupting their business. Oh, okay. And for £3,000 per quarter, we do this, and this. We do these calls. We do this. We actually have a local fitness trainer who does 12 sessions to kick it off. It's someone who's selected by me. So you're basically putting those things together. The key thing is packaging. A Porsche 911 is a package, even though it seems like one thing. But think about this. A Porsche 911 has 2,500 components from different suppliers, 2,500 suppliers. And it also has tangible and intangibles. So it has warranty, it has finance package, it has all of that sort of stuff. It has Porsche membership and club and all of those kind of things. So the Porsche 911 has tangible and intangible things that are packaged all together, but it seems like one thing. But they bring it together. They have designed it to look a certain way. They find and curate the right suppliers to fulfill the vision. But actually, most of a Porsche is not Porsche. Most of it, right? So, the stereo system's not Porsche, the brakes are not Porsche, or the shock absorbers, the tires, all sorts of things that you think of as being part of a Porsche 911 are just other people's stuff packaged in.
I think the difficulty when it comes to online training is you lose that accountability that I love. When I'm going to Tom, I know I've got to be there at a certain time and I'm going to work out. So it's finding a way for him to move that online and without losing that.
You can still have those, you can have online check-ins.
It's
you
not
can
the same though.
It isn't the same.
I've had an online coach and
Same. And I just fucked it off so fast.
I cancelled it because it wasn't working for me.
Or I guess technically if you're playing that sort of orchestra conductor role, you could have really good coaches on the ground in loads of different cities around the UK. And, you know, if someone signs up in Birmingham, well, you've got your nutritionist and your coach on the ground in Birmingham that you can connect them with. They also have the online portal. They also have all these resources. So you're
I guess you need to convince those people to work with you though, and not do it on their own.
And also, I don't know who I'm going to when I'm in this city. So then I've got
and I'm a worm, so it's like, how do I get there in the first place?
Yeah, maybe don't have a car.
The first thing you should know about every industry is everyone in the industry hates making sales. They hate generating clients. They just want to do the work. The value of every industry, well, the value of the vast majority of industries is in winning clients. And getting the work done is easy. Most personal trainers, if you were to feed them the clients, they would just take a very modest hourly rate. The hard part is winning you in the first place, and they hate it. They just want to be in the gym doing training sessions. So the money will always move to the person who knows how to win the market. So, you know, if I was entering that market, I would create a national licensing program. I would create the massive ability to funnel the audience and get the audience excited about this. And then I'd just have my delivery partners wherever they were needed. And I'd make quite a margin. Maybe my trainers were being paid £35 per session, and those sessions are booked out at £55 a session. I'm making £20 a session across hundreds of trainers. Because I know fundamentally fitness trainers fucking hate making sales, right? Most of them. They just want to be in the gym counting reps. That's not where the value is. The value is in winning the business.
That makes sense. So anyway, let's move on to the next step.
So sales. Yeah. So essentially sales is laps. We talked about a bit about this last time. Laps is leads, appointments, presentations, and sales. So every single week you have to have a way of generating some leads, booking those leads into appointments or a greater commitment of attention. And then presentation, you actually present someone with a value proposition, and sales follow through, making sure you handle objections and make the sale. And what you do is you actually get into a rhythm where you pick what is your target revenue for the year, break it down over 45 weeks, and then essentially say how many leads, appointments, presentations, and sales do we need each week in order to hit that revenue target. So if I want to do $1 million a year, I need something like 25,000 a week. If I've got a $5,000 sale, I need a sale a day. So I need, 5 sales a week. I need 25 presentations. Let's say I need 200 leads. So it's like, okay, how much do I need to spend? What do I have to do to get the 200 leads, to get these appointments, to get these presentations, to get these sales? And all I'm doing once I've figured out the first concept, audience, and offer, now I just go into a year of just dedicated leads, appointments, presentations, sales. That's religion for the next 12 months. We're just going to go and figure out how do we optimize for each lead, appointment, presentation, sale. And what we're looking at, what is our cost to acquire a customer, and what is the lifetime value of a customer? And then how do we spend as much money as we can that is an allowable cost per lead, that gives us an allowable cost per acquisition, that allows us to keep selling. And you can do some of that online, you can do some of that over Zoom, you can do calls, you can do face-to-face. Depending on what your allowable cost per lead is and your allowable cost per sale and your lifetime value of a customer is, you can then build an entire pipeline of sales activity off the back of that. That should get you your first 6 figures of revenue. You should be able to get to 100 to 300 grand worth of revenue just by doing concept, audience, offer, and sales.
Yeah, and then what I was going to say is, them strategies get you to a pretty sizable business, but then how do you take that from the 6 figures to the 7-figure mark?
I like it. So let's say we've validated, we've got 100 grand worth of revenue. Now we need to build a team. So teams build the same way as military teams build. So 2-person teams. So I'm a big believer in co-founders, or at least having an assistant. So 2-person team turns into a 4-person, turns to 8-person, turns to 30 people. So in the military, they call this a scout team, a fire team, a section, and a platoon. So when I build businesses, we go 2, 4, 8, 30. And we build out the team. And essentially what we're going to be doing is, the most important thing at the beginning is to establish the founder's brand as a key person of influence. That is super important. Look at all the people that you guys have on the show. They've written books. They lead communities. If you Google them, their name comes up. People in their industry have heard of their name before. So you've got to establish yourself as a key person of influence. Publish a lot of stuff. You got to pitch yourself well. You got to give talks. You got to be on podcasts. You got to launch a book if you can launch a book. You got to host dinner parties. You got to get in with the existing key people of influence and make sure that they want to have you around as well. So your job as the founder is to get in as the key person of influence who's leading this business and who's known, liked, and trusted. You've got to stay away from the delivery side of the business. The delivery is always solvable if the demand is there. The key person of influence is responsible for demand generation at scale. So they're going to be out there talking about things, getting things going. Once the marketplace is accepting this and they're excited about it, you will be able to recruit the team. You will be able to raise capital if you need it. All of the other problems are downstream from that first problem of having enough people who want to buy it. So your best strategy for that is being that key person of influence. And also, if you run ads, you want to have a face on the ad because people don't buy from faceless brands. It takes 100 years to build a trusted brand, pretty much, where you can build a key person of influence brand very rapidly.
Is it dangerous linking your brand or your business to a person that's not going to live forever? For example, my dad is a big figure for our business, whereas we're 50-50 in the business. I don't have the kind of brand that he does because we spend all of our time building my dad's. So when my dad steps away or he's no longer with us, long time yet, maybe the business will suffer quite a lot. So the same with maybe Apple. I know they've got Tim Cook now, but Steve Jobs obviously left his mark on the business and it took a certain person to come in and take over. And maybe they might not have found that. Maybe the business would
I guess
failed.
this situation is even more extreme than that though, right? Because Mark is the brand, whereas Tim Cook was just a known figure behind.
Yeah, at least they had a product.
You know, there was
Steve
a
Jobs,
product.
yeah.
So there's 3 types of brands. Key person of influence gets the best cut through. Company brands and product brands end up being, long term. What you want to do is use your personal brand to build a company and a product brand. And then if we want to talk about what makes a business exit and valuable or longevity, you're going to have a core team of people who make that business run. Normally it has to be at least 30 people. You're going to have a proprietary set of assets. So it could be intellectual property, media, content, software, code, all of that sort of stuff is your proprietary asset base that your business owns. And then you're going to have recurring and predictable revenues. So recurring revenues are really what makes it valuable. So if we take Mark's brand and we say he's getting huge cut through, how do we turn that into recurring revenues? How do we turn that into proprietary assets? How do we build a team around that? Now, what happens is that initially the starter motor is the personal brand. Eventually, you can actually introduce other personal brands. You can, a great example is Nike. So Nike was started by 2 guys, Phil Knight and Bill Bowerman. Bill Bowerman wrote a book called Jogging, which is the biggest book that was ever written about going for a run, going for jogs. 1 million people bought the book. He was the key person of influence for jogging, and they sold jogging shoes for 12 years. That's what they did, track and field jogging shoes. And then what they ended up doing is Bill Bowerman passed away, and they ended up finding all sorts of athletes who could be the face of those product lines. And they said, we can enter tennis and basketball. So then they adopted a new strategy, and now Nike can just, do that over and over and over again. They know how it's done. And they can build up a personal brand for that particular category. So it's super simple. So the idea is that you want to use your personal brand to get things going. You need to build a core team. A core team is either going to be 8 or 30. So a small business is 8 people on the core team, and a 30-person team is a leadership team with teams of teams underneath them. You establish your team, you establish your proprietary assets, you establish your recurring revenues, and then your business. Once you've got those 3 things, your business can interchange the personal brand. Apple interchanged the personal brand. It was interesting, by the way. Side note, Apple used to be seen as visionary and rebellious when it was Steve Jobs, and now it's seen as predictable and safe, which is Tim Cook. So it's even a huge business, the biggest business in the world, still adopts the personal brand as the extension, like the business becomes an extension of the personal brand. Apple today looks like a Tim Cook business. It doesn't look like a Steve Jobs business anymore.
Where does that go? Because it's interesting that you say that because we just had Grant Cardone on the pod and he was saying that a lot of people run into these problems where when they become a millionaire, they stop taking risks and they start becoming conservative. So would you say that that's what Apple are doing? Like they are becoming conservative. They're doing what they know works. They're not being what they used to be or changing things up. And then where will that go? Do you think they will just keep selling or will it become like BlackBerry?
Well, what's happened is that Apple has Apple has become an extension of Tim Cook, and Tim Cook is a very, very good operator. What they've done is they've adopted the best strategies in the world, which is to become a luxury brand. So they are they're considered to be a premium luxury brand. They run a very, very tight operation. Tim Cook's background was the COO. He was the operator of the business. He is a very, very safe pair of hands. He's a really predictable guy who's reliable and predictable. He's created something that is reliable and predictable. And they've moved into a new category of business. It was the right move for
They've graduated, I guess.
Yeah, they've leveled up. So if we take Louis Vuitton was originally a disruptive suitcase maker, young guy who creates these different types of suitcases and these boxes and sells all of them and literally sells them on the streets and outside train stations. And they've elevated up to becoming Louis Vuitton today. So businesses go through these evolutions. And it's the leader who becomes the face of the brand, and then the business personifies them. So the funny thing is that Apple is now insanely more profitable than it ever was under Steve Jobs. I think the quarterly profit is more than the annual revenue under Steve Jobs. So it's now that big, and that's because they adopted reliability, luxury branding. So they made a shift, they made an evolution. Had Tim Cook tried to be Steve Jobs and said, I'm going to try and be a rebel and a misfit, and I'm going to try and be a disruptor, he would have been not being true to who he is, and he wouldn't have been able to sustain it.
But equally, I guess if Tim Cook started Apple, it might not have cut through the noise if you didn't have that rebellious arc. So it's kind of like there's different strategies for different points in time.
Yeah, Tim Cook is probably not someone to start a business.
Yeah.
He's probably someone to take over $1 billion business and grow it to $100 billion. It's funny. I personally think that Elon Musk would be super. It would be super beneficial for him to have a Tim Cook running Tesla now.
I was actually going to ask you that question. What do you think Tesla would look like if Elon Musk wasn't running it?
Yeah, I think it's starting to get to that point because Elon's always off being distracted by something else. But he can't help himself. He cannot help but being a disruptor who's interested in the new thing. And the thing that they have to do is kind of contain that energy, and sort of distance themselves a little bit. So that they can adopt that predictable, reliable luxury without, the rebel, the misfit, the free speech guy, right? Because Tesla's like, hey, that's not our DNA of our brand. We're trying to be over here doing this thing, and we're a more evolved business now. So they're having that same challenge.
Yeah, there's like a branding issue there almost, isn't there?
Mm.
So once you become that key person of influence, how do you move on from there?
So here's what a $1 million a year business looks like: a key person of influence who's responsible for demand generation, and a general manager who reports to that key person of influence. And the general manager is not like some Tim Cook role. The general manager is someone who could run a coffee shop or a pub or a McDonald's or an executive assistant, but it's someone who just handles general day-to-day management, and they maintain a team of about 6 or 7 people. You've got someone in marketing, someone in sales, or a couple of people in sales. You got someone in financial control and admin. You got someone who's in client delivery, customer success, and media and IT. So you've got this nice little team of about 8 to 12 people, and you end up doing about $100,000 a month and above. And that is essentially the first place where business becomes great. So when you think of someone who's got a really, really good life, it's normally they've got a team of less than 12 people, 12 or less people. So it's a nice, cool little team. They've got those nice roles. They've got a key person of influence who's getting attention. That attention gets turned into laps, leads, appointments, presentations, and sales. The laps gets turned into happy customers. And now they've got this great little engine. It's making hundreds of thousands of profit. It's got millions of revenue, hundreds of thousands of profit, and it's a great little stable unit. At that point, it's a very stable business. If you try and go beyond that point, you might rock the stability, but at about 8 to 12 people, you're a very stable business that just prints money.
That sounds like where we are exactly now. Like the other day, I got really annoyed with everyone messaging me because I was doing the day-to-day running, and I said to Kye, I need you to be the general manager. And he made a joke in the Discord, not the Discord, the Slack. And he said, yeah, I'm captain now, guys, because that's what we call ourselves in there. But yeah, we got to that stage where now it's 8 to 12 people, but
Perfect.
we want to be moving on to the next stages from there.
So the next stage is difficult because it doesn't really work between 13 and 30 people. Between 13 and 30 people, you're too big to be small and too small to be big. So you're not yet a big business, and you need all the big business stuff, but you can't afford all the big business stuff. So what it looks like on the other side is a 5-person executive team with the non-executive director and an advisor. So you've got like 6 or 7 people buzzing around the top section of the business. Then you've got territories, products, markets, and functions teams, right? So you might have some territory teams, or you have some product teams, or you have some market function teams. So a functional team might be sales or marketing or admin or customer success. Those are functions. Territory team might be Germany, France, UK. Product team might be iPod, iPad, iMac, those sorts of things. So you end up with a leadership team and then teams of teams. And those teams of teams will be like 4 to 12 people each, and you'll have several of them. You typically have about 30 people in total. At that level, you're now probably doing north of, say, 6 million, so $500,000 a month type thing, and then up. And that team will actually scale up right up into the tens of millions. And that is where you end up with a very valuable exit, because if you've got a good leadership team and you've got teams of teams, you've got recurring revenue, you've got proprietary assets, all of that stuff adds up to an exitable business where you can get a proper exit.
Do you hire those people straight away? Because I noticed you said you went from, was it 16 to 32 or something like that, or 12 to 32?
12 to 30,
Is it like that, or do you gradually hire those people as you go?
The fastest I've ever done it was 4 days, where we basically held a conference and we said we need to go from 12 to 30 people. Who wants to join the team? We had about 60, 70 people in the room. We put up the future state org chart, and we basically just onboarded a new team. And we said, great, we're going to start with culture and solving problems together and all of that sort of stuff. It's very, very hard to grow. You have to transform. So growing is like, oh, we're 12 people, now we're 13, now we're 14, now we're 15, now we're 16, now we're 17. Oh, now we've failed, we're back to 12. Oh, now we're 17. Oh no, we can't manage that, we're back to 12. Transforming is saying that's something that works. Now we're going to have a future state organizational chart with a leadership team and teams of teams. This is what everyone's going to do. We need 5 CS people. We need 6 developers. We need a front-end developer, a back-end developer. We need a graphic designer. We need these salespeople. We need these presenters. We need these financial controllers and admin people. So it's like boom, boom, boom. We've figured out exactly how much that is. We've also done a financial forecast and model that we're going to lose 400 grand before we make 400 grand. So it's like, okay, we need capital, so we need to tip 400 grand in so that we can get through the J curve and then out the other side. So this is where you become a grown-up business. A grown-up business plays a very different game. Not worried about losing money if you're going to make money in the long run. Not worried about like growing slowly. It's like, no, we need that size team. So think about how a grown-up business would approach opening a hotel. They would buy a site, right? So they'd have the hotel. They would work out that they need 87 people on site at any given time, and there's 3 shifts. So it's like, okay, we need these 200 employees, and they would just hire the 200 employees and open the hotel. So that's a grown-up business approach, and they would, from day one, they would have everything that they need to open a hotel and run a hotel. So once you decide that you're going to go past 12 people, you have to start becoming more of a grown-up in the way that you run the business.
Although you did your financial projections, when you went from those that smaller team to 30 people in 4 days, were you scared about taking on those extra overheads? Because even though you know you're going to lose money to that point, you don't know those projections are 100% correct, right? Yeah. But you also know that, like a professional fighter, you know that if something gets thrown at you, you've seen it before, you'll duck, you'll weave, you'll figure it out. If you're getting, so where I'm in business is that like none of those things surprise me anymore. I've got margins of error, and I know that it's just a guide, and I know that this is the model, but obviously we're not going to be on track for the model. We'll do our best to be as close as possible, but we're in the zone of sensible. We've tested our assumptions, and we've got good market feedback, and we know enough about what we're doing.
And also we're surrounding ourselves with smart people who can just solve most problems at that point. So
Do you think people should be building businesses to exit? Like you mentioned your Magic AI or something earlier.
yeah, book magic.
Book Magic. So are you building that with an exit in mind?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Score App's on track for 100 million exit.
And would you recommend that other people do that, or when they're, should they just be trying to make themselves some money to start with, and then they can worry about that in, 5?
It's a
10
bit of
years'
an
time?
advanced move, and there comes a point where you've been around enough people who've had an exit, and you've also got a CFO on the team who's done a lot of transactions, M&A transactions, that it just doesn't feel like a weird thing to be doing anymore. It feels like a far more normal thing. It feels like the next step in the journey. It's kind of like, if you're playing sport and you start spending a lot of time around professional athletes, and it's like, okay, now I know what being a professional athlete looks like. I'm going to level up and play that professional athlete game. And you surround yourself with all the people who are quite comfortable and used to that level of intensity, and that's the game they want to play anyway. So I would say for most people, especially anyone who's like done a but what if type thing, most people, your biggest business you want to get to is about 12. So between 4 and 12 people with healthy 6 and 7 figure revenues and 6-figure profits, that's the outcome that you want to get to first. That is where you cut your teeth and get used to business, and that's where you're forced to solve all sorts of problems on a small scale. And then there comes a time where you start thinking, what if we were to go beyond? Now, the trick is don't go 13, 14, 15, 16 people. Don't go incremental. At that point, you need to draw a line at 12 and say, I need to start spending time with people who've got 30, 40, 50, 150 people on the team. I need to start spending time with a CFO who's run a business at a bigger level, and a COO who's run a bigger business. I need to spend time. Essentially, I'm going to have to be in a position to attract an experienced operator, an experienced finance person, experienced marketer. So I'm going to have an experienced leadership team who are better than my current team. I'm going to have to bring in some grown-ups and manage and lead those grown-ups. So you're going to have to, as I say, it's not growth, it's transformation at that point. You're not going to grow into that business. You're going to transform into that business. So you've got to be ready for that transformation.
Do you ever wish that you didn't transform and you just had that 12-person team making half a M a year and you're just chilling?
No.
He's chilling now. Look at
I'm
him.
chilling. I'm
Nah,
pretty
of course, but I'm sure that there's a lot of
No
things
sweat.
that go on that we don't know about.
I think
You'd get bored, right? Presumably.
yeah, you get to a point, if you love business, if you're a proper business geek, you get to the point where it's like, I want to build a business that's that next level up, and it's enjoyable to do that. You also start attracting phenomenal people to play the game with. And it's like, if I don't come up with something cool that we're all going to work together on, they're going to go work on something else. So you kind of want to play with other professionals at that level. I enjoy what I do. Of course, there are times where a lifestyle business would be great. There are some times where I get paid to speak and I go, gee, I could just do this. I could just like do 4 of these a month and earn pretty damn good money and literally have no overheads and all that. I'd get bored so fast with that. If I had all that time on my hands, I'd be coming up with something.
So if we use our business as a bit of a case study, how would we go from 12 people now to 30 people? What steps do we need to take to turn this business into a business that could be doing 10 million a year versus like 1.2 at the moment, around that?
So what you do is start with financial modeling. Financial modeling is where you build a financial model as to what it looks like. So what you would do is probably start with the idea of what does 10 million of revenue and 3 million of profit look like? And you'd essentially have to kind of do a retreat with the team and say, okay, forgetting what we are today, what does this business look like as a much bigger business? And you might say, well, we do 10 times as much media, or we actually launch a product, or we acquire a company, we buy this business, but if this business was owned by us, it would do way better. Like, let's say there's a business out there that's currently making $1 million, but strapped onto your media engine, it would make 10 million. So you start coming up with ways of thinking about how would we look? What kind of products or services would we be selling? And then you kind of build your org chart. So the financial model, you then kind of ask the question, well, like what would the org chart look like? Like we're going to need a leadership team, but then we're going to need these types of people and these types of people, and we probably would need 4 of them and 6 of them. And so you're kind of building out that model, that organizational chart and that financial model. And then you might ask the question, how would we get from where we are today to there. So you work on a financial model for growing into that, like turning into that. So you might say, we're going to do it in 3 stages. We're going to do stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. And, this is this. And then you might say, what assumptions do we need to test to see if our model is actually accurate? So in your model, you might say, we're going to sell access to our studios, right? So we're going to have a global group of studios, strike at big studios. Where
I've actually thought about that, yeah.
yeah, right. And you say, okay, we're going to launch 20 locations, strike at big studios, and people are going to rent space at the podcast studios, and we're going to be a global strike at big studio business. So then you might say, we're considering launching studios. Fill in the waiting list if you'd be wanting to take out a membership or use the studios, and you ask them survey questions and you kind of see if you can get 500 or 1,000 people to fill in the thing. And then that's going to either confirm, actually, we do have people from 20 cities who have said that they're interested in joining this. We've got plenty of people who have said that they're willing to pay the price that we need them to pay. So it starts giving you validation. So once you get validation, you then assemble your leadership team. You've got a business plan, you've got a financial forecast, you've got a future state org chart. So you're putting all these grown-up things together, and you might work with investors to do that. And you basically then execute the plan.
I think with the sales thing, that lots of people struggle with dealing with those objections. So maybe something that would be useful is maybe explain some of the most common objections you have and how you've dealt with them and how other people can.
Sales objections?
Yeah. So you've got the good offer, you've got all of that stuff sorted.
So sales is hard because in order for someone to buy from you, they have to logically want to buy the thing, emotionally want to buy the thing, and they have to feel a sense of urgency. And those are 3 balls that you got to learn how to juggle. And that's why sales is hard. Logic, emotion, urgency. Logic, emotion, urgency. Most people can make a logical argument for something. People can make an emotional argument for something, but the logic goes out the window. People can say that it's urgent that you buy this thing now, but if it's not underpinned with logic and emotion, people don't go with urgency. So the very good salespeople are the ones who learn the skill of logic, emotion, urgency in a single conversation. They learn how to do it in a conversation. Sales is a little bit like Shakespeare, performing Shakespeare on a stage. It sort of sounds like English, but you actually have to learn the lines, and you have to there's nuances to it. And you've got to become a trained actor to be able to do it convincingly. And it's the same. People think, oh, I like people, I'll get into sales. Or I'm confident, I'll get into sales. Well, that's a good starting point, but it's no different to saying, I'm confident, I'll deliver Shakespeare. Well, okay, if you're committed to learning the lines, if you're committed to understanding the underlying stories, if you're committed to the craft, yeah, you can do that. But it's a craft. Sales is a craft. You've got to do role play. You've got to make a list of all your objections. What are the big objections? And you've got to brainstorm and role play. So for example, if we're going to launch Strike at Big Studios, someone might have a price objection. Someone might have a timing objection. Someone might have
an objection to us having Andrew Tate on the podcast.
Yeah,
they don't want to associate.
Yeah, a brand objection.
Let's role play now. So I'm a worm, and as a result, it's very difficult for me to get to the studio.
Exactly. Apart from that, is there anything else that would hold you back?
No, I'm sold completely.
Fantastic. So it's just the fact that you're a worm. You haven't got legs.
Yes, yeah, but I'm working on that actually.
So out of curiosity, if we could come up with a solution that could get you to the studio, is there any other reason why you wouldn't go ahead?
I guess I'm a bit afraid of committing to paying a price every single week for the studio.
So it's the commitment and the fact that you've got to commit to a contract. Is there anything else?
That's pretty much it.
Great. So what I've done is I've surfaced the full objection. There's the original objection is I'm just a worm, but actually sitting beneath the surface is the real objection, which is committing to a contract. So first thing I would say is that committing to a contract feels like a big commitment, and it feels like you don't want to do something where you can't back out and all of those sorts of things. I totally get that. I've felt that way about contracts as well, and I'm reluctant to do that. Have you ever signed up to a contract where you felt totally confident that it was a good thing for you to do? Is that something you've ever done in your business before?
No, I've never been totally confident. I'd say I've been 90% there, but there's always a bit of doubt for sure.
Great. So what would be the 2 or 3 things that would, for you, give you confidence to be able to sign up to a contract?
I guess just to know that I'm going to make use of it, because I might not want to record every single week, or you know, my my need for the studio might no longer be there, but I'm still going to have to be paying you every single month for the next 12 months.
Can I have your permission to push back on that idea with something that is a bit cheeky and a bit playful?
Yeah, I'm in a cheeky mood, so go on.
So one of the things that happens is when we commit to something, we typically prioritize it and get it done. You told me earlier that you want to have a really successful podcast.
Yeah.
And part of having a successful podcast is just committing to it and getting it done every week, right? So I want you to think of the commitment to the studio as not a commitment to the studio, but a commitment to your own consistency and a commitment to getting your podcast out there every single week. And the actual benefit of being committed to a contract is it's you saying, yes, I will build this audience. I'm going to do it. I'll push through the difficult times. I personally know that when I commit to it like a fitness trainer and I've prepaid all my sessions, I actually turn up to the gym and I do the workout. When you commit to the podcast episodes, I know you, and I know from what I know of you, I know that what you want to do is get 12 really good episodes out in the next 12 weeks. And that means you've got to get the guests and you've got to do all these sorts of things. So the commitment's not to us. The commitment is to you doing that thing that you want to get done. Would you agree?
I would agree, yeah.
Yeah. So how does the commitment feel now? Making the commitment to your audience and to your podcast.
Yeah, and it almost feels like there's no point doing it if I'm not going to commit anyway.
Great. So I've got some good news and bad news. The good news is we would love to have your podcast as part of the studios. The bad news is that at the moment we're talking to about 40 different podcasters and we have limited availability in the studios, right? So you can either make that commitment to the audience and make that commitment to your podcast, or it's totally fine to leave it until next year and launch the podcast next year. But what we need at this point is we need to secure, in order for us to open up the studios and get going, we need some people who are totally committed to their audiences to come on board and say, yes, I want to be one of the people who gets access to the studio consistently. Are you in that camp?
Well, yeah, now I feel almost stupid for not signing up because there's so many people wanting to sign up. It makes me feel like it must be a great product and a great service. And it also makes me feel guilty that I'm not committed to what I'm saying I am. So to be honest with you, I'd love to give you my money right now. I'll pay a year up front.
One question for me, just selfishly, because I just want to know, is that how does it trigger people in the sense of, if you really have this many people that are interested and you are truly in that position of abundance, why would you spend so much time dealing with his objections when you don't really need him? There is an element of that could potentially make me feel like, is this really true? Do you really have these people? Because why are you pushing so hard?
The main thing is that signaled interest. Well, I wasn't pushing too
No,
hard.
I didn't push. No, push is not the right word. Why are you trying to get the sale, not pushing?
So signaled interest is not committed interest. So people will signal that they're interested in something if they're 15 or 20% interested, but getting someone from 20% interested to 100% interested requires handling objections. So the thing about sales in that situation is that I'm saying that I'm not quite sure who are going to be our first customers, but I know we've got enough people that will get there. Based on what you're saying, I wouldn't want you to miss out on that. It's totally fine if you do. We will find someone else. But everything that you've told me says that you are ready to commit to launching a podcast. So therefore, it would be a sensible thing for us to take you on as a client. It'd be a sensible thing for you to commit to doing your podcast.
It almost felt like you weren't selling to me. You were helping me make a decision.
Yeah. So, and that, by the way, what we just did is role play. And what I was doing was balancing logic, emotion, and urgency. And I was trying to rapidly think through, what does it look like on his shoes? Does he want to make a commitment to me? No. But does he want to make a commitment to his audience? Yes. Does he want to make a commitment to this strategy? Yes. So it's like, let's reposition the commitment to the studio as a commitment to the strategy.
Yeah, you weren't selling the studio. You were selling my success.
Exactly. So essentially this is Shakespearean, learning the lines, learning how to do it. And essentially going through role plays so you get good at it.
No, I think what you're saying makes complete sense. I think what I was just wondering is, have you ever had a situation where in that moment they just think, I know he hasn't really got them people, otherwise he wouldn't be wasting the time with me, so I'm going to leave it for now and I'll come back later because I know he'll still have me. Does that happen?
Or if people say that, so that would be your objection, which is, I don't want to make a decision right now.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, so that's totally fine. So what we would do, so here's what we do. We're going to go first pass through all of the different people who've expressed interest, and we're looking for the people that we think are going to be the most successful podcasters, who are going to have a big audience and that are most committed to their audience and committed to the strategy of podcasting. If you're not in that camp at the moment, that's totally fine. we know that we've got enough significant interest of people who do want that. What I'd love to do is move you to our wait list or keep you on the wait list, keep sending you some updates, show you some of the people who are succeeding. When you're ready to commit to your audience and to the strategy, then what we'll do is we'll just have another meeting. We'll find out whether you're in a position to commit properly. And if we've got availability, we'll happily take you on.
Yes, yeah, now I feel like I'm not serious enough. You know what I mean?
The key is though, you're not bluffing. You do have that interest, and it's the same when you're selling brand deals, right? You don't have to bluff because we've got this interest, and you feel like, well, we don't need them, but we want them. So if they want to commit to a 12-month deal, then we'll have them.
And I felt it in real time as well, because when I first started doing the brand deals, it was like, you know, the first month where I've like properly moved on to it. It's like, well, I'm starting from scratch now. You know, I've got nothing. So I'd hop on a call and, you know, try and fake the fact that I've got this abundance, but they just know. They just know. But then as soon as you actually have it, and it's like, if we close this deal, it's going to be more work for us than what we generate, sort of thing. So I'm not really that bothered. They just want it more.
The purpose of marketing is to give the sales team with or without you energy. With or without you energy is where you know you're going to make the sales with or without that person. It's fine. I've got enough leads in my pipeline. My pipeline's fully stacked. That's good marketing. Good marketing makes the salespeople go, you know what, I can take it away from you confidently. My non-verbal communication says that we've got plenty of leads. You know we've got plenty of leads. You filled in the waiting list, and you know that lots of people filled in the waiting list. So I've got like 800 people on the waiting list. I've got 40 spots available. So I've got to, you know, for the good of our business, I've got to choose people who are committed to their strategy, not people who are wishy-washy, and I'm going to have to chop and change every couple of months because they just didn't feel like it this week. So with all due respect, I need to pick someone who's a bit more committed. Right now, what will happen is you'll go, hold up.
Yeah, I am committed to my audience. Yeah, I do want to do this. And I feel you.
Yeah, that's been a super valuable podcast.
Serious goat.
Where can people find you?
So I've written a bunch of books. Scorecard Marketing is the latest one. Scoreapp.com is the place to get the scorecards and the waiting list software and the templates. Dent.global is where we do our entrepreneur accelerators. And also there's a page there that like has all the other group of companies like the publishing and that sort of stuff. If you want to connect with me, all the social media channels, LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter and all those sorts of places.
Drop a like if you enjoyed, guys, and we will see you next Wednesday. I think that could be our most valuable podcast.
Yeah, it definitely will be the most valuable.